I use they, them pronouns. I am the director of congregational life here. And in the spirit of our service this morning, in the spirit of accessibility and inclusion, I would like to offer a visual description for our friends on Zoom who might be, or in the room who are vision impaired. I am a tall, light-skinned, queer and trans person with dark brown hair, very stylish round glasses, a wonderful jumpsuit, and I just got new purple Doc Marten clogs that I'm very excited about. And I am honored to be serving as your worship associate today. As we gather, as we begin, UUFNN is here on the land stewarded by the Paiute, the Shoshone, and the Washoe. As we confront colonialism and combat the doctrine of discovery, we too honor the continued legacy of these tribes, of these people, who have modeled a legacy of care and have maintained this land. Because like this land, we too are warmed by the sun, shaded by the clouds, nourished by the snowmelt of the Sierras, the waters of Lake Tahoe that offer life to the Truckee River, to our meadows, to our desert, and the entirety of the Great Basin watershed. It is our responsibility to tend this land, to tend to this land, tend to this water, to tend to this place we all call home, in solidarity with our Indigenous neighbors and siblings. It is in that spirit of interconnection that I welcome you all here today. No matter where you are, if you are here in our sanctuary or out in the ether on Zoom, we welcome you. We welcome you in the fullness of you. All the lovely parts of yourself that you bring here are welcome. All the anxious and unsure parts of you are welcome. All the heartbroken, sad, angry, or hurting parts of yourself are welcome here in this community. UUFNN strives to be a beloved community that can hold and celebrate all of who you are, including racial identity, age, ability, economic circumstance, immigration status, sexual orientation, and gender identity. If it is your first time here, welcome. If it is your 100th time here, welcome. We are glad that you have decided to gather with us this morning. We have a few announcements, and just as a reminder for a thorough description of all the amazing things we do here, I encourage you to please sign up for our weekly e-news. And the first announcement is I want to invite you to look, and it's a little difficult today, at the back of a chair to see a white piece of paper that looks like this. This is our Joys and Concerns card. There will be a moment in our service where we honor the joys and the concerns of our community. Please take time during our gathering and greeting moment to fill one out. I will be standing right over here if you would like to give me one to read during our service. And we have a jam-packed day today, so we are going to move quickly through the announcements, and I apologize for how quickly we'll have to move. To start us off, I'd like to invite Bill Miller up.
Good morning. This is a sort of informal climate note, or climate alarm again. Show up at Reno City Council this Wednesday morning at 10. They will be considering a 6-month moratorium on approving any more, they approved 2, data centers. The reason is simple. Currently, data centers are folded into the same codes as warehouses. This is absurd. What warehouse consumes as much electricity as 40,000 houses? That's right, 40,000. Or consumes and potentially contaminates enormous amounts of water. Data centers are coming, that's reality, but they need to provide their own green power and not waste or contaminate our scarce water. The owners have deep pockets and can afford to do this if they are required to by law. Data centers need Nevada more than Nevada needs data centers. So please show up at City Council chambers 10 o'clock this Wednesday to urge them to accept this 6-month moratorium. Meanwhile, I'll be in the lobby after the service. If you have any questions, thanks.
I'd like to invite up Kevin Murphy.
So next Sunday, March 2nd at 9 a.m., the Sunday Forum will feature a UU voice from the legislature, Leah Case, who will be talking about those issues before the legislature of concern to Unitarian Universalists. Now, I'm making this announcement especially because Microsoft has discontinued support for the system of email notifications that we've used for Sunday Forum. I have managed a workaround, but some of your names got dropped in that process. So if you would like to receive email announcements about Sunday Forum, please let me know at fkevinmurphymd@hotmail.com. That's also on Realm, and Carol Sorensen also has my email address. Just let me know if you'd like to receive Sunday Forum email announcements. And next Sunday, Leah Case talking about issues before the legislature of concern to those of us concerned about justice, equity, and democracy. Thank you.
And I have a few just to close us out. The Reno Posse wants to let folks know that there are 6 spaghetti kits in the kitchen in Star King. This is an organization that's affiliated with UUFNN that serves meals to our houseless neighbors. It's an amazing program. If you have questions, I invite you to talk to, who do I point to? Well, Pam can be a great resource. On March 8th, Tu Casa Latina will be hosting the International Women's Day Community and Resource Gathering here at UUFNN. Please keep an eye out in the e-news for more information about the times of when it starts and ends. And then on March 9th, after our Sunday service, Tu Casa Latina's Executive Director, Sandra Quiros, will be leading a workshop about how to be strong allies to our immigrant community in these difficult times after the service here at UUFNN. Tonight is our family fun service in the evening from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. This is an experiential dinner service designed to give parents the night off from cooking and build community across ages as we deepen our understanding of Unitarian Universalism. And finally, please stay after the service if you are here in person to join us for our stewardship kickoff brunch. We will have a lot of food. There is a vegan casserole that is amazing. All the food is vegetarian and meatless. And for our friends and members on Zoom, we want to encourage you to gather a good meal at home, but please stay on the call as we have a very important presentation from our treasurer, Philip Moore, with more information about our stewardship campaign. So please stay, get some food, learn about what we're trying to fundraise for. It's going to be a lot of fun this late morning. Now, it is time for us to greet those around us. We want to take this time to greet one another and say hello and welcome in the way that is most comfortable for you. A hug, handshake, a wave, an elbow bump, but be sure to please check in with someone and get their consent before you touch them. And if you're on Zoom, we can wave to one another. I feel that way too sometimes. As we gather this morning, you can tell it's a special kind of Sunday. It's the launch of our stewardship campaign, the time of year where we raise funds as a community to ensure our future as a progressive and prophetic voice here in Northern Nevada. We are also wrapping up our month-long reflection on our UU values of justice and equity. To help guide us through this final reflection, our very own Carol Sorensen is going to offer us our sermon or our homily or our message today. Carol has been an advocate for accessibility and disability justice here at UUFNN, but also in the larger UU community. It is an honor and a gift to have her share her wisdom with us this morning, continuing UUFNN's legacy of speaking truth to power, moving and shaking the status quo towards justice, and making our beloved community a more liberative space for all. And to ground us in our morning, I'm going to invite Philip Moore up to light our chalice as I light the pilot light. And as I read these words by Pat Uribe Leakey, we come from many places along many different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and different realities, and yet we come together as one people, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, we may find others who are much like us and others who are much different. May our lit chalice remind us that we are a people taught by different stories, with many voices, but always one people working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. Amen, blessed be, and namaste. And please rise in body and spirit for our opening hymn, number 134, Our World is One World. As we gather this morning, I invite you to resettle yourself in your chair. That might mean place both feet firmly on the ground. It might mean leaning back to feel the top of your chair meet the mid of your back. It might mean closing your eyes or leaving them open to stare out the windows of our sacred space this morning. When we gather for this moment to honor the joys and concerns of our community, we are reminded that we are a community that holds the world in both hands, the joy and the sorrow, the excitement and the elation with the grief and concern of our world. It is in that posture of holding the world in both hands that I invite us to hold our community this morning. As we celebrate that Emily Montan has returned home from the hospital, as our community creates notes of love in the gathering room to welcome her back home. We come together this morning in celebration and joy with Jeff Harper and Carol Pete Peterson, who are happy to announce that they are engaged to be married. And in that joy, we know that joy is only felt because we know what it means to feel grief. As we hold Michelle Hamilton and Brian Thornton, whose Brian's mother passed away at home in Eugene on February 12th. We hold their family in our hearts and in our arms. And we come together to hold Jennifer and Chris Cochran as Chris is home following his spinal cord injury, continues to heal and works to be able to regain abilities and daily living. We keep them in our thoughts and in our hearts. I invite you to take this moment to meet the silence of your own heart, the joy and the concern that you carry. That's asking for simple awareness and attention. Take this time to be with the parts of yourself that need your presence. And as we bring this moment to a close, I want to invite you, if you have your eyes closed, to open them slowly. If you have your eyes open, I invite us all to just take a moment to look around the room. Around the room and out the windows, the overcast, the trees tangibly feeling getting ready to bud as spring is on its way. Take a moment to breathe as you look around and observe. The Hebrew word for breath is the same word for spirit. Our breath is always the first prayer our body learns to pray. And may our breath be a blessing. Amen. Blessed be, and namaste.
Hello, I'm Carol Sorensen. I'm a post-middle-aged woman with medium gray and brown hair. My skin is fair with some redness. I am wearing glasses that are clear and black. I am wearing my vestments. I am seated and have a metallic purple cane. If I can't have joy and silliness, it isn't my revolution. I am the office administrator here for over 17 years, and I'm pleased to see new folks as well as people who are longtime friends. I am here today to talk about our values of justice, equity, and how they lead to radical hospitality, particularly as it pertains to disability. That's the lens we're looking through. Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Bylaws and Principles and Purposes, is the foundation for all of our work of our UUA, its members' congregations, and covenant communities, affirms the core values of love, justice, equity, interdependence, transformation, generosity, and pluralism. These values are not just words. They are a call to action, a blueprint for how we shape our congregations and engage with the world. Becoming disabled is something that can happen to anyone at any time. People with disabilities are the world's largest minority group, including people of all ages, genders, ethnicities, religions, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Rest assured, at some point, most people that live long enough will become temporarily or permanently disabled. Many people in this room already have one or more disabilities. The CDC reports that more than 1 in 4 people living in the US reports having a disability. Yet while being the largest minority, cutting across all ages, genders, and agender, and classes, it is often the least considered. When I lived in big cities, buses with lifts to assist wheelchair users to get into the bus would routinely skip stops that had a wheelchair user waiting. Once this led to passengers already on the bus to ring the bell and yell at the driver, so he stopped and the person was able to catch their bus. The American with Disabilities Act is the only civil rights movement opposed almost solely based on the cost. Disability is part of the human experience as sure as death and taxes. Amani Barbarin, writer and activist, reminds us disability is a holistic experience, so it must have a holistic definition. Disability is not just a physical diagnosis, but a lived experience in which parameters and barriers are placed upon our lives because of that diagnosis. Justice and equity beg us to consider, how can we be as accessible as possible? With, of course, the understanding that we or any group can't be 100% accessible 100% of the time, and that disability isn't a monolith. Disability is deeply personal and means different things to different people. Some people consider disability to be an identity. Some consider it a part of who they are, but not an identity. And some who technically have disabilities choose not to identify as disabled at all. Justice is righting the wrongs of exclusion. Justice demands we move on from a productivity model of human experience to one of inherent worth and dignity. On her blog, Leaving Evidence, Mia Mingus, writer, educator, and community organizer for disability justice, explains that it is about moving away from an equality-based model of sameness and we are just like you, to a model of disability that embraces differences, confronts privilege, and challenges what is considered normal on every front. Equity means moving beyond a model where hospitality is something where the normal give to the other. Instead, it's about ensuring that diverse voices shape UUFNN's direction. We can assume competence of people living with disability. Personally, I was transformed by the late Claire Lozier, a member here that some of you may remember. She had severe rheumatoid arthritis. Back in the olden days, we had paper orders of service, and there always should have been 3 large print orders of service with large print songs, the hymns attached to the back. One Sunday, due to time constraints, I didn't get the large ones printed. Claire called me on Tuesday and let me know exactly how she felt about them not being available that service. Essentially, I was unintentionally saying that Claire was not welcome as a full participant that Sunday. I was so grateful. That was my curb cut moment. Providing access for low sight people turns out to also have benefit for people with issues of their hands. And realizing the intersectionality of disability became a priority for me. This was the impetus for having the QR code available, because people can use that and modify the font, etc., to their own needs. And if you ever want to talk about fonts, please come to me. Radical hospitality means not just tolerating difference, but celebrating them. Recognizing that a truly diverse community is a stronger, richer, more faithful one. Nature shows us it loves diversity. We see it in flies and sea slugs. Why would people be any different? When we center the needs of the neurotypical, cisgendered, normal immune system white man, we are also systematically telling folks that a neurodivergent LGBTQA, A is for asexual and agender, immune compromised people, that their whole selves are not welcome. We have some groups here that are great about using the OWL, which allows multi-platform meetings, so people both on Zoom and meeting in person can see each other and talk. And it is especially important because the education building where we have many of our meetings is not truly accessible for people with many mobility issues. When making decisions about meetings, for example, being cognizant of who we are saying no to, as well as yes, or a qualified yes, is something to consider. Dr. Devin Price, a trans autistic social psychologist, points out, for many people, there truly is a feeling of a closer, more authentic connection at a live in-person meeting. And that for them, face-to-face events foster a greater ability to speak off the cuff. But it's those very same boundaries of time and distance that help to keep disabled people like myself authentically engaged, participating at our own speeds and protected from the sensory pains and viral risks that an in-person event introduces. And I add that in-person meetings can also be difficult for people with past trauma or PTSD. Radical hospitality is more than a welcome mat. Hospitality is often understood as being friendly or welcoming. But radical hospitality, hospitality rooted in our UU values, goes much further. It means creating spaces where people are not just invited in, but fully included, where barriers to belonging are intentionally dismantled. Radical hospitality as an action requires us to extend ourselves beyond what is comfortable. Radical hospitality means that we do not merely open our doors, but reshape our spaces, our language, and our practices so that all feel a deep sense of belonging. This is why we have the table up front for folks of any age to grab sensory devices, the larger seats, and the glider rockers. This is why our congregation remembers what our real purpose here at UUFNN is: building community, expanding our web of care to people we may not always understand, and not putting the onus on the person you don't understand to make themselves understandable to you. Radical hospitality in the church is about reimagining what it means to be a part of the interconnected web of life. It's about moving towards a just and equitable space where all people can thrive, lead, and be transformed together. In the words of Thandika, I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestries of brokerage firms, drug dealers, private estates, personal things, and the bag lady's cart. Rage and pain in the faces that turned from me, afraid of their inner worlds. This common world I love anew, as the lifeblood of generations who refused to surrender their humanity in an inhumane world courses through my veins. From within this world, my despair is transformed to hope, and I begin anew the legacy of caring.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, choir. My name is Chris Pekars, and my pronouns are he, his, him. I stand about 5 feet 10 inches tall, light brown hair, and a full beard going white at my chin. I also wear glasses. I am wearing a dark blue shirt with light blue flowers, one of my favorite shirts to wear when I'm in the pulpit. I am a Unitarian Universalist. I came here more than 15 years ago during a time of personal crisis. My health was failing, and we were in the middle of the Great Recession. And while my wife and I were secure, family and friends were losing businesses, jobs, and homes. I came here seeking shelter and answers to the big questions. Most importantly, why? I found answers, but I also discovered that I was asking the wrong questions. When I first walked through those doors, I expected someone to point me to the instruction manual. I expected dogma. But spoiler alert, if you're new here, Unitarian Universalism has no dogma. I came here a Taoist, a self-taught Buddhist, a pantheist. I believe in reincarnation, that my stuff has always been here and always will be. And I still believe all those things, and nobody here has told me I'm wrong or asked the wrong questions. But one of the answers I didn't expect, the question I didn't even know how to ask, was that love is at the center. When you really learn to love, to not only accept but to understand people, especially those who walk on a path that is completely different than your own, your heart expands. Compassion and empathy fills you. Now, when I look in the mirror and see myself, I recognize that while I am flawed and imperfect, I am worthy of being loved. I am a thread in the miraculous tapestry that is humanity. Without my thread, there can be no cloth, and without the cloth, my thread is worthless. I know and feel that I am part of the connected universe. The second answer I found to an unasked question is the incredible value of belonging to a beloved community. I am surrounded by friends and companions. In crisis, I have comfort, and in celebration, joy. Since joining UUFNN, I will never be alone again. If I reach out my hand, someone will take it. These things have profoundly and permanently changed my life, and both were freely given to me by you. The vast majority of my charitable giving goes here, as does the majority of my volunteer time. But I hesitate to call my contributions charity. I give and volunteer here to repay a debt that in reality I can never repay. Unitarian Universalism and its embodiment here at UUFNN is a priceless gift, gifts for which I will forever be grateful. Thank you all.
It is in a spirit of generosity and shared commitment that we are a self-sustainable community. And we are entering the time in our service where we are going to invite you to be a part of that self-sustaining. Your gifts not only sustain this community, though. Our gifts that we gather as we pass the basket, so to speak, also supports the work of a local nonprofit through our Share the Plate program. Each month, we partner with a local nonprofit where we share the bounty of our Sundays and make a contribution to their efforts. Our Share the Plate partner for February is the Cancer Community Clubhouse. The Cancer Community Clubhouse serves over 400 local cancer survivors and their loved ones by providing evidence-informed programs and is aimed at improving the quality of life for cancer survivors. And as Chris shared, as Chris shared, this community means so much to so many people here. And as we enter into our season of stewardship, you can also take this opportunity and place your stewardship form, if you'd like, in the basket as well. And with that, let the offering begin. I invite you all to join me and Nancy as we bless our offerings. To the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Thank you, Nancy. And as we move to bring our service to a close, before I extinguish our chalice, I just want to remind folks to please stay afterwards. There's lots of food, good conversation, and you'll learn more about our goals for our stewardship campaign. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so to extinguish our chalice, I'm going to reread the words that Carol closed her reflection with. The words by Thandika. I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestries of brokerage firms, drug dealers, private estates, personal things in the bag lady's cart, rage and pain in the faces that turn from me, afraid of their own inner worlds. This common world I love anew, as the life, blood of generations who refuse to surrender their humanity in an inhumane world courses through my veins. From within this world, my despair is transformed to hope, and I begin anew the legacy of caring. As we extinguish our flame this morning, we know the light of hope, the legacy of caring, lives beyond the extinguishing of a flame in the spirits and in our hearts and in our actions. Please rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn, number 1053, How Could Anyone? And please remain standing in body or spirit for our benedictions as well.
Jen, I invite you to hold hands at your comfort level, or you can put a hand on your heart and one hand up to extend your love, and especially for those of us on our Zoom worship here for you. There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to the weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day.
arms if you can. And thank you, Philip.
Good morning. I hope you're enjoying your brunch. And I'm just going to ask you to pay attention for a few minutes before you can get back to sharing community with one another, because I just have some important information I'd like to share with you. As Nathan mentioned earlier, my name is Philip Moore. My pronouns are he and him, and I have the pleasure of serving as your treasurer until the next election. I was asked to put together some information about the financial basis for what we're doing today in terms of our stewardship drive. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where the money comes from what we do here at UUFNN, as well as where it goes. And then I'm going to ask each one of you to do your part to help us meet our goal for the stewardship campaign this year. So with that, if you could pull up the first slide, Tracy. Oh, the projector has to be on. So while that slide's coming up, I'll explain to you all that we are a self-funded congregation. In fact, we fund the national organization, which we'll talk about in a minute. But as such, your financial commitments make up the vast majority of the money that we have to spend to continue the programming of this fellowship. It's on. Oh, there we go. So the big blue part is the 95% that comes from your generosity. In addition to that, we have a small amount, the remaining 5%, that comes from other source of income like building rental, donations that aren't associated with the name, or investment returns on the money we have in the bank. We are continuing to look at how to diversify this because we'd like to see another piece of the pie that is fundraising. And we have a wonderful team of people that is working on how to do that, both this year and next. And if you have a passion for fundraising, by all means, talk to Andrea Coldwell and she'll get you hooked up with that team. But the main message here is we are self-funded. What we're asking you for today is the money we need to run the beautiful things that this fellowship does. All right, if you want to go ahead on to the next slide. The next slide is a little bit more complicated. This is where our money goes. So the first piece I will call out is administration. That includes what it takes to do the day-to-day operations, include copiers, office supplies, bookkeeping, software and subscriptions, and our worship services. All of that fit within that piece of the pie that is administration. The next one is committees, and that is your board, our caring committee, other groups. But the biggest component of this, not surprisingly to be a UU Fellowship, is our Social Justice Committee that oversees programs like the Posse and our food bank and other work that they do. So that money goes directly to the social programs that we support. The next part is our UUA contribution. For those of you not familiar, UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association, is our national organization. They provide a lot of support to this congregation in terms of logistical support, legal support, organizational support. They also run an annual, sorry, I always forget the name of it, General Assembly. And I just want to say, if you haven't been to a General Assembly, please go. They are so much fun. They switch between different parts of the country, so choose one that's close to us if you like. But being in a place with that many Unitarians and singing with them is a life-changing experience. So anyway, UUA does a lot of work, a lot of good work, and this is our part to keep that national organization going. Facilities, no one's going to be surprised, you all probably have some of this yourself, that it takes some money to keep these buildings and grounds going, despite the incredible volunteer support. And the work that the folks are doing on the outside is just astounding, so thank you again. But it does take money to trim the trees, heat these buildings, paint them, all the things that we have to do. This building was built about 15 years ago now. We still have a mortgage on this, over 20 years ago, wow. Wow, am I getting old? All right, over 20 years ago, we still have a mortgage on this building of about $180,000 as of the end of January. So we still pay that off in regular amounts. Last but not least is our staffing. For those of you familiar with finance of an organization like ours, undoubtedly the majority of our expenses are going to be staffing. We have upped the amount that we plan to spend in the next year, as you know from the materials you may have read, in order to allow us to expand our staffing. Our amazing administrator and director of congregational life, who are sitting over to my right, have done and there's our music director, have done amazing work. But in order to keep up and continue to expand the programming, we need more staff. In particular, we'd like to get a new minister. So what we will do once we figure out how much we've got from you all's generosity is figure out the right mix of staff for our coming years. Don't know what that looks like, but a significant portion of the increase will be for a minister. So that's what we're looking for, that's what we're shooting for, and that's what these numbers represent. Adding a minister to our portfolio of staff in order to make sure we can do the programming that we need to do. So the next thing I'm going to do is say we have a big goal. 365,000 is a big increase over what we got last year. Not as much from the year before, but it's a big increase. We all need to step up in any way we can to help us meet this goal. So I've got some ideas for you all on how we might all step up. And before I say those, I want to encourage you, both today and going forward, to really listen to the testimonials. Chris's was beautiful, but so was Carol's. And I ask you to think about how many places where we're talking about compassion and empathy and radical inclusivity at this time and place, how important that is. And I'm going to ask you to consider that when you are giving, as to what that means to you and what that means to our community. So I'm going to ask specifically, if you plan to decrease your pledge this year, and you need to do so, by all means do so. But if you're willing and able, wait a year. We need your help. We need to meet this goal. Hold off on that decrease. If you plan to increase your pledge, thank you. And if you're willing and able to do so, I'm asking you to step up and increase that pledge by $20 a week. If you need to leave your pledge the same amount, by all means do so. But if you are willing and able, how about stepping up and increase by $10 a week? If you're a returning giver who's pledged in the past but may not have pledged last year, welcome back and thank you. If you're willing and able, I'm asking you to step up by going back to the pledge amount you had the last time you pledged, and how about increasing that by $10 a week? If you're new a pledger, I welcome you, and I welcome you to our community. And I'm asking you, maybe start off with $20 a week, if you're willing and able. And last but not least, and I'm speaking to those that often will give generously, but decline to do a pledge. You can magnify the impact of your pledge if you agree to just say in advance how much you plan to give. We're not taking you to court if you don't make it. However, it helps us to magnify the impact of your pledge, because if you tell us what you plan to give, we can put that into our planning cycle. The reason I mention all these, this is a big goal. We all need to contribute. We all need to figure out what we can do to make sure we can have the staff and the resources we need to continue the critical programs and capacity of this fellowship. And with that, I'll say thank you for your generosity, and I look forward to meeting the goal with you this year.
I'm not on the program, but I just wanted to say, if you want seconds, please bring your plate over by the library. We've got plenty of juice still there, and Chris just brought a couple of tubs in for your dirty things when you're done. But we have plenty of food left, so come get seconds if you'd like.